obviously after talking to you about the situation, I know that you know you shouldn't down air here, right? But it's also about figuring out, what actually made you do the down air here. The thing with the approach, so like with the doing the laser net, is a lot of the time you need to do something that gives you time to react to them jumping. So like, for a couple reasons. So first of all, like when you back at him, I think he actually DI'd away. And so the DI away is going to send him more downwards, right? So he's actually going to reach the ledge before you. Whereas when they DI it, like people usually DI this back air in, so they go like this. And then you have time to get down to the ground.
Like a side B or a double jump, it's really nice. You get like a free hit.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say also like, and this is really common and it's really hard to avoid, but I felt like it would be like you're playing like maybe 80% of the game well, and then you just throw it away on like one interaction, and then that's all like Marth needs, right? So like for example with this, there's like a double jump aerial here, and I feel like you can't really be doing something that's that like level 1, right? Like even versus this guy that it seems like you're a lot better than, like even he knows to like dash dance with punish the down air, right? So definitely like always being on that like second level. So with this one, for example, like land with a laser, maybe jump to the platform instead.
Or just like drift all the way left and just empty land.
Yeah, empty land, wave land, pretty much anything other than the down air, right?
Yeah, I think that's a bad habit I have. It's like holding a lead, because sometimes I'm like, all right, I have the lead.
Yeah.
Like, if I get that extra credit and he runs into that there, it's like, okay, I could start running away with the game. But it's like I have to actually earn the opening. I can't just
exactly
hope for the best.
Yeah, and it's also like on the flip side, you're giving him that 50-50 of like, oh, I can be back in the game if I just hit this one read, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the good thing about being in the lead, is that generally you get to pick the mix-ups you want to play more, because you're not as pressured to like make something happen, right?
Yeah, and I'm just writing some stuff down.
Yeah, no, sure.
Yeah, I do relate to that, of just like I feel like I have a lot of foundational pieces in place.
Yeah.
But I feel like to get to the next level of where I want to get, it's like I had no choice but to cut out that 20% of garbage, because like you're just gonna lose sets. Like even if it's close, it's like that 20%. It's gonna make it like a 2-stock.
Oh yeah, easy. And yeah, and I've sort of changed my opinion recently, but I actually think it's probably better to just have a very, very wide skill set that isn't that deep. Like as long as you have some sort of like mix-up or answer to as many situations as possible, that's usually better, like in terms of results, rather than having one situation really, really, really nuanced, right? Because like you said, like all it needs is somebody to pick up on like one or two things, and that can equalize it for them, right? But yeah, and the other thing can be like, obviously after talking to you about the situation, I know that you shouldn't down air here, right? But it's also about figuring out what actually made you do the down air here. So for a lot of people,
the power shield, to be honest.
Okay.
I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I was gonna say for a lot of people, it's that they see the up tilt here. So like they see someone whiff under them after they do this double jump, or before they do it, and they're like, oh, I can double jump and then down air and land and hit them, right?
Oh yeah. No, you're right. I guess it's kind of both. Like when I get hit by the power shield and then I get grabbed, it's kind of like PTSD.
Yeah, right. And you get your chance to escape, and you're like, oh, I gotta,
Yeah,
punish him.
I was hoping I could catch him like dashing under me.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, let's say you could say I had the read right there. Like, can I get there fast enough to catch him? If I fast fall? No,
I don't think so. Yeah. So
it's not even worth it.
Yeah, unless you have a specific read on like maybe if you wanted to up tilt here. I think the down air could maybe catch it. or maybe he wanted to nair or something.
Yeah.
But even those, like, downer isn't too good versus here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd say like the big thing there is not only knowing like what the mix-up actually is here, but also like why you're doing the bad habit in the first place, right? So with this one,
Okay.
it's sort of like because you think you have time to punish when you don't, right?
Yeah. That's
And-
an interesting one. Like,
Yeah.
why you're doing the bad mix-up.
Yeah, because like I mean, you told me literally like 4 other things you could do here, but if that doesn't sort of like trigger in your brain when you see this situation, it's all like useless, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
In fact, it's
And
probably
like
just
that-
gonna tilt you because you'll be like, oh, why did I do that? You know?
Yeah, and that's another thing too, which is just like confuses me. It's like I don't know. It's like when I'm playing well, quote unquote, like I'll be engaging in those mix-ups more often and
Yeah.
in a better way. But it's like sometimes I'm just not. It's like I don't really know like how to get better at that. But I think answering why you're doing the bad mix-up is like a good place
Yeah.
to start.
I mean, that like why you're doing it is always like your sort of subconscious reaction, right? Which is your C game or whatever you want to call it, your autopilot. And when you're playing hot, like you said, that's when you can probably think in your brain that, oh, I don't actually have time here, so I need to do something else, But if your subconscious reaction is like, oh, I do have time, then you need to make it so that that's more accurate in sort of like assessing the situation, right?
Yeah, true.
Um,
And it's funny because
yeah.
it gets worse like when I'm playing against someone good as well.
Yeah.
Which is like it sounds so stupid, but it's like they force you into your panic bad habits, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
because you're overloaded, right? So you have to rely on your autopilot more because you've got less sort of like mental RAM or space. Yeah, right. Whereas when you're playing against, say, this guy that's a bit worse than you have a lot more space. I mean, people say all the time where like top players are just thinking about like what they're gonna have for lunch when they're playing pools, right? And that's like that's the opposite end of the spectrum, where like they don't have to think about anything because their C game just handles it all for them.
Yeah. True.
But the good thing about playing those really hard opponents, and anytime you do work on any of this stuff, it like really ingrains it a lot faster than if you're playing against someone a lot worse, right? Where it takes less effort. Well, obviously, the more effort you're putting in, the more it's gonna like ingrain it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And also it's like the openings are harder to come by against good people, so it's like the reward feels just so much more impactful.
Yeah. Sure. Cool. So another example of like a little thing like that as well was right at the start. So you actually get an approaching laser. And you try to shine off of it, right? So this is also one of these like situations where a better player might capitalize here. So this guy shields after it because he thinks he's in a disadvantage. But after you shine here, you're actually the one in the disadvantage, right? Because you're stuck in shine now. Like you can't really go in. Like the only places you can go is like here, or like maybe up here, right? But he's like, as soon as he gets out of this laser, he's fully actionable on the ground. He can go anywhere. He can put out moves. Right? So this is an example of a spot where like if you were playing against like Zane or Kodarin or someone, I think they would actually have hit you in this spot because you sort of like put yourself into lag. But it's obviously really hard to see, right? Because when you do this laser in the first place, you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna land on top of him and then I'm gonna do laser shine, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna go from here to here.
Kind of before I landed.
Yeah. So part of it is like doing that laser and then reacting during this sort of time and seeing what happens. You can do like a little walk forward if you want, and that can give you some extra time. But also as well, just thinking that like if this guy is like any sort of competent, he's not really gonna stay here and do nothing, right? Like, unless he's a really bad player and he's just gonna like sit and shield here. He's probably gonna move this way, he's gonna move this way, he's gonna throw out a move.
Yeah.
He's
I mean,
gonna
it
jump.
could be that I was trying to react like as I'm approaching with this laser.
Yeah.
But I saw that he didn't move, so I thought that the shine would hit.
Yeah, I mean, let's see how quick he moves here. I think he actually wave dashed, which was a bit weird. Because it has like that initial part where he doesn't move anywhere, right? On the wave dash. So that could have thrown you off a bit.
You think like, oh yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did a really bad wave dash. So that looks like he jumped and then he tried to shine. But yeah, I guess the point here is that like, I wouldn't expect them as much to like stay exactly where they are here at this spacing. Whereas if you were say, let me get another color. If you were say here and then you did the approaching laser, I'd say that shine is way more likely to hit, right? Because he's going to move on top of you if he moves back.
Yeah, and also you're closer to them. They have less time to move, right?
So what you'll So what you'll see a lot of the time here is like Mango's probably the best at recognizing this, I'd say. But he'll like if he lands here where this orange one is, he might do like just an aerial, for example, afterwards. Or he might dash backwards because he knows he's not going to be right on top of them, and that the situation is going to change by the time he gets to here, right?
So yeah, so like I'm trying to like end the interaction when really it's just like I've earned a better position and I need to play that new interaction.
Yeah, you've got one more step and then you get the hit here. It's not you don't get the hit as soon as you do the approaching laser here. You need to win another situation.
Unless they mess up.
Yeah, unless they like literally just like sit and shield or or something, you know. But yeah, so then this is. Oh, go on.
Oh, sorry. Like what situations does that? Can I do an approaching laser and I expect it to like hit them?
Be on top of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I was saying, if you were a bit closer, for example, say you were here, and you were reading that they were going to dash back, right? That's when if you do an approaching laser, you're going to land right next to them.
Okay.
But that was why I was also saying the walk could be pretty good here, because that sort of delays your reaction, right? Whereas I think you shined like as soon as you landed from the laser.
Yeah.
I want to say.
And you know, the walk can give you some extra like space to actually hit the shine potentially, right?
Yeah, and you can also do other obviously you can do other options when you land, but like you could walk forward and then like up tilt, for example, if you wanted to, or
Yeah, true, because they're probably not gonna like do an instant hitbox like after that.
No. And if they did, if they did, also it's like they've won it already. I feel like. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, do you mean they throw out a move here, or once they land from the
like,
laser?
I hear you. Yeah, like if they did like an instant up tilt out of the hit stun.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a lot of the time you can like walk far enough forward that you get to hit them. Sorry, I thought you meant when you were doing the approaching laser and they threw something out.
Oh no,
that's my bad.
I guess that's
Yeah.
Yeah. But here, if he does an up tilt, I mean, I can do anything. I'm fully actionable. I can dash back, an aerial.
Yeah. So that's why I was saying, like, you know, Mango might dash back here. He might just run, like, try and run or walk forward and then grab or shine or something. He might do a short, like a J6 aerial here. You know notation, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a Falcon. You're a Falcon squad. Yeah. So like he does a lot of J6 aerial here as well. That could be good.
J6 with fast fall.
Yeah. I mean, essentially what you did here, but without the shine in the first place, I'd say. Right? Because you do sort of like shine and then do it. But you can see how if you did like J6 and just like fast fell onto the shield, right? Without the shine, then that could catch quite a few things. Or even backflip if you want to be tricky.
So how many frames do I lose by doing that shine?
Quite a lot, because you have to go through. So you go through the shine, and then it's 4 frames until you can jump, and then you're in jump squat for 5, and then you've got to wait for your next aerial to come out, right? So you're losing at least like 10 here by doing the shine.
And I'm sacrificing potential like low aerial on shield because he already has a shield up.
Yeah. And again, it's really important that that shine, it sort of locks you in place, right? Like when you're just standing here, your threat bubble's quite big with like, you know, dash short up aerial, right? Like it's sort of this sort of space.
There.
Yeah, but if you're in shine, then you can only short hop and drift.
That's
You
what I'm
can't
saying,
dash
yeah.
hop. Yeah, so you only get like here. And if that's the case, then Moth has a much easier time spacing around you, right?
Yeah.
And you also can't do stuff like shield, for example.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
If we have a little bit of time in the end, we can watch like another like if we watch something like Zane versus I don't know, random Falco. I think that situation comes up a lot. Like especially, and this is what I mean by sort of like advantage states not getting enough out of them. Like I'd say that's a very strong situation, but if you play it slightly wrong, then it ends up going in Moth's favor, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it can swing. Yeah, and I think this one, I'd say a lot of the interactions where you lasered Moth out of the air also went pretty bad. Would be or like not. Sometimes it was bad and sometimes it was sort of like mediocre. But I feel like a lot of the time that should be one of the strongest positions for you to be in.
Like which ones?
So like for this one, for example. Like I think if you nared off of this, for example, you'd have got a much stronger hit, right?
Yeah. I guess it was like an awkward spacing.
Yeah.
Drift forward.
Yeah. And then I'll try and find a more clear-cut one. But yeah, it would either be like maybe you don't get anything, or like maybe you get take laser fed, or something along those lines.
So when Marth is in the air and I hit him with the laser, that's like one of those power situations for Falco?
Yeah, I'd say that's an advantageous spot. So yeah, so this is a really good example, I think.
Yeah, I was just reading. Okay, that's right here.
Yeah, so right here. So the reason it is good for you is, you know, when Moth's on the ground, obviously he's a lot quicker than you, and you know, he has quite big range, right, with like dash attack.
Okay, yeah.
That's what wave dash, you know, that sort of thing. And when he's in the air, the big problem is A, his range, and B, like his drift, right? Because he can drift really far. And so it's very hard for you to sort of like whiff punish some of these things, right? If he has full control over his drift, because like he could like move back with this aerial, for example, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty hard to deal with. So what the laser does is, first of all, it resets his drift, right? Which is pretty important, because then you don't have to worry about like you go from having to worry about this sort of zone to like this sort of zone, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's quite big. Yeah, and then the second thing is because he's in lag here, that allows you to get a bit closer, right, into this sort of zone where you're close enough. But then you're still not at risk of getting hit because he's had to reset his drift, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some little things like STI that can happen, but for the most part, this is how it sort of plays out.
Yeah. I'm familiar with this positioning. I thought you meant like laser, like when Marth is like further away and I hit him with the laser in the air.
Yeah, I mean that's also part of it as well. So like,
because if he's far away, like how do I take advantage of that? Like
yeah.
This one, I kind of like understand. Like,
what do you think you should have done on this one?
Well, I come down with the laser here, and I feel like the safe go-to is to like dash back after the laser, because I gotta take laser forward, right?
Yeah. So I would say here, you just want to, yeah. I mean, I would just whiff punish the fair. Like you don't even need to dash back, right? Because
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean you're already out of the range of the move, right? So if anything, dashing back's gonna actually make this kind of harder to punish. You know, you could literally just stand still if you wanted to, and then dash forward.
That's something I don't think I do ever.
Yeah, it's kind of
I don't, like,
counterintuitive.
stand still to space something.
Yeah, because you've already got the spacing set up from the laser, right?
Yeah.
It's most relevant, like not especially there, but when you're in the corner, right, and you don't have that room to dash back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like they jump into your laser and you don't have room to dash back, but you can just stand still and then wait for the flare. But yeah, I'd say this is a spot where like you could get loads of value. You know, because like every morph now is just gonna flare here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you just delay a little bit, jump in with like a late aerial.
I get a shine and then kill it.
Yeah, and you know, if you don't want to go for that, if you're not fully confident that that's what they're going to do, you can still dash forward and get closer into this zone, right? And then you can pressure their next option a lot easier.
Oh, you mean after I wait out the fair?
Just as they're doing the fair.
But yeah, but I moved forward and I got hit. See?
Yeah, but that's because you jump forward. I mean, you just like dash forward or something.
Oh, if I dash forward, I would dodge that.
Yeah, I would say like you just sort of like dash dance in this sort of zone. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me play it like.
Pull dash.
Oh, I don't have a frame by frame. Yeah, as in like you're still outside of the range of the move, but you're trying to get as close as possible, so that you're in a good position. And the other thing, I mean, you can just shoot another laser here as well. And the good thing about that is that you have a lot of information about what's happening here. Whereas when it's just in like raw neutral and you're both like just dash dancing, you don't really know if that next laser is going to hit or not. Whereas if you shoot another one here, there's only really two outcomes, which is he either falls or he double jumps, right?
Yeah.
So that can be an option too. And then if you are close enough, you know the laser nair combos before Mothfair, or were you not aware of that?
I'm aware that nair you can perform it off of a laser, but like I don't really know if I'm doing it correctly. Like I definitely don't really go for it just because it feels like, I don't know. It's one of those things, like, I'm sure like, I've done it a few times when I'm just doing like a rover nair, but I'm not like doing it because
actively
I know
looking for it.
Yeah, I'm doing it because I'm trying to like, I basically think I'm playing a mix-up.
Yeah. So like that's where it's good here. So it's like if you were a bit closer off of this laser, so say you were like here, then I would go for the laser nair, just because it clean beats the fair if you're fast enough with it.
Okay.
So that's the important distinction you need to make when you laser moth out of the air. Is, am I close enough to take laser nair them, or do I need to play a mix up around the next thing?
Yeah.
Because if you're here and you're in range of the laser nair, it's like there's not really much point in trying to play a mix up, right? When you just have a hit.
Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, this comes up a few times in the set, I'd say. And the hard part, if you're not good at that situation, is it's pretty hard to deal with moth jumping otherwise, I feel like.
Yeah.
Just because you're so slow on the ground.
I actually do think that's like that kind of situation in the matchup, funnily enough, is the one that I feel like I'm the most comfortable with. Even though it's like clearly like my execution on it is not good.
Yeah, I mean maybe you're good at like the longer range ones, but not like the shorter range ones where you're like right next to them, right?
Yeah. I think I don't really have the situations like modeled perfectly, so it's like sometimes I do the right thing and sometimes I do the wrong thing, but I don't really rhyme the reason to it.
Yeah, I get that.
And there was a situation, if you go back like 10 seconds maybe, when he was in the corner.
Yep.
Like, I want to know if I played this situation correctly. Like,
that one?
Or did you just like mess up? Yeah, that one. Like I shoot some lasers and then I like dash back and then I catch him and I gotta shoot. I mean,
yeah. So he whiffs there. That's whatever. Tries to crouch, get ready to take laser. Moves out of it. It's fine. Yeah, I mean I'd just say this is just like a read on his jump timing.
So it's not like a good thing in the matchup.
I'd say it can be relevant because like Moth does want to jump sometimes there, especially if he wants to try and get to the platform.
Yeah.
But
even if he doesn't jump, I get shield for sure.
I mean, he can do stuff like he could have shielded and then wave dash forward here, for example. And then what's going to happen is he crosses you up, and he goes this way, and you end up on the other side of him because he'll go under your net. So that can happen here. He can also do like a retreating aerial out of shield, sort of like this, and then that would catch you as well.
Doesn't seem that horrible. Like at this percent.
To get hit by?
Yeah, because if he does like retreating fair, it's like okay, that's fine. But if my nair hits, it's like kind of get the stop, right?
Yeah, for sure. But you also don't want to, you know, let him always just escape the corner for it, right? Because then you also need to be good at like the situation where you're in the corner now and he's just wave dashed out. Because that's like not that great for Falco because he can't laser safely now, right? Like Moth has time to be able to like forward smash, nair at you, you know, those sorts of things. So he doesn't get a hit immediately, but the next situation can be kind of rough.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'd say it's good. You know, if you have a read on when somebody's gonna jump, or you know that they don't do either of those two things, I think the nair's really good. But yeah, just to be aware of those.
That's like the type of thing I'm like trying to understand, because it's like, oh, I did the nair, it worked, so it's a good nair. Like it was an informed decision, so it has to be good because it worked. But in actuality, it's like it's not just like clearly good. Like it depends what the Martha's doing.
Exactly. Yeah, it depends like what you're trying to respect and what you're sort of not expecting from them.
But so let's say. So he jumped and he got hit, but let's say he just held shield. Let's say he didn't move forward or back. Like, is it good to cover the jump and shield if I do like the Sammy now?
Yeah, I'd say that's good then.
Okay.
If you want to play that like more aggressively here, you know, you can do like you get a decent nair on shield, and then you can like shine grab, you can shine wave dash back, you know, all of the normal like shield pressure stuff. Yeah, so I'd say that's fine. And it's pretty decent reward if it hits, so you get an edge guard potential. But then, you know, it's when something like this happens that it could go a bit dicey, right? So this time he holds shield and you don't get the jump read, but you also end up going behind him.
Yeah.
And because you hit it wasn't a really late aerial on the shield, he usually has time to wave dash out before you can shine him.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, good marks do that to me.
Yeah, and like you did the run shield, which was good. But you know, you can see how that's a precarious spot for you, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because it's like, oh, I landed on the other side of Marth. Like, that seems like it could be good, but not when I'm in the corner, I guess.
Yeah. So he actually catches your time in that time. So that's the other like issue with the NES. Sometimes that like you have to read their exact timing, right? And there's a lot of different timings they can go at.
Yeah.
So this might be another spot where like, you know, you're a stock up, right? You have center stage there in the corner. Like, I'm probably not trying to force a hit in the corner here. Because again, thinking about the risk, not even the risk, just the reward as well. Like, if you get the nair here, you know, you can't really combo much of this percent, right? Like, the best thing you're going to get is maybe you hit them off stage and then they go to ledge and then you're having to ledge trap them or, you know, play that situation.
So what are you looking for at this percent with, like, a stock lead? Because it's like, if I do, like, walling aerials, I don't really get much off of those either. Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say do more of these sorts of lasers that you're doing. And get him to run forward out of the corner. Because then it's easier to combo them when they're like near the center of the stage, right? Compared to when they're in the corner. And yeah, so if you keep doing these sorts of lasers, because like when you do the walling aerials, if he doesn't run into them, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, right? And then he gets to play a mix-up on like when you're gonna do your next laser. Whereas if you just keep doing this, he has to sort of like battle through all of these lasers to even get to a spot where he can try and hit you, right?
Yeah. And if I did an approaching laser instead of a snare, that probably would have. That sounds like it could convert into a nair potentially. That's basic.
Let me watch it again. The thing with the approach, so like with the doing the laser nair, is a lot of the time you need to do something that gives you time to react to them jumping. So like shooting 2 lasers in place, or like dashing, like backing up with that laser, right?
Okay.
Or another one can be like with the approaching one is like, say you're over here, and they're falling down from the air, like you've just shined them, for example. If you do an approaching laser like here, then you can see them falling down and that the laser's gonna hit, right? And then you can sort of nair off of it.
Got it.
But if it's like this one, like you're approaching lasers here, there's no way you're gonna see this jump in time, right?
Okay, yeah. Alright, but let's say the laser does hit there, like, would I guess what I'm asking is, would a laser have been better there instead of that nair? Or is that still pretty risky?
I think they just sort of cover different things. I don't think either. I mean, maybe a high laser would have covered this jump, and then he could have like potentially laser shined or something. But it depends what you thought he was gonna do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, you can see how sort of like if you did that back up and then laser, right? So he would have jumped into it, right? And then you'd have played that situation. You probably wouldn't have been able to laser nair, but like you'd have played that situation where you're here, he's back here, and then you play around his take laser fair, right?
Yeah.
And then you'd get
so he tried nairing out of the corner, and that's
yeah.
when I can take advantage, basically.
Yeah, and then you'd get like a down air here, right? Which, you know, you might still DI off stage and or something, but I feel like that's a lot. It's a much safer way to play the situation that still ends up with the same reward in the end, right? Like, you're still getting an aerial into a shine. It's just that this is with a few more sort of steps, right? Because that's all you were going to get off this nair if it hit anyway.
Yeah. That was a bad full hop.
Yeah, so I think here you're just sort of pushing out of the corner too hard. Again, if Martha's doing these like jumping and walling sort of aerials, I would just wait on the ground with a dash dance, wait for him to jump, and then I'd get my laser out, right? Like anytime Moth jumps outside of your range, you get an opportunity to get a laser out, which is like pretty valuable.
Interesting. Yeah, because he can't power shield in there.
Yeah, and he can't hit you, right? Because his range here is like this. And that's the same for like pretty much any character. Like, if you see them jump in place, then you can usually get a laser out. Now, whether that laser will actually hit them depends on, like, what they do. Because, you know, they could jump and then double jump, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they could empty land and then shield or something. But it gives you that time to get some control back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're before the jump, when you're, like, dash dancing on the ground, are you kind of like positioning yourself to be ready for like a dash attack or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think by doing the dash dance there, you're sort of saying like, okay, if you run up and literally just like raw grab me, like say, how far was he? It wasn't on this one. I'd say this one here. Like, if he's willing to literally just like run all this way and then grab you, like you're willing to get hit by that. But everything else you can sort of like dash dance and like sort of space around, right? Or get a laser out, or and even if he does this, you still have a mix up here of like, do you put your shield up or do you spot dodge?
Yeah.
Right.
Or what about like aerial in place? Is that decent?
I think it can be all right if you know that he's gonna move in at this timing, right? I'd say it's probably a safer way of covering what you were trying to cover with this like approaching aerial, right?
Okay.
I mean, I guess the question for you is like, you know, what made you do the aerial you do here? Was it an aerial? Oh, you tried like instant double jump, but it's pretty similar, I'd say. Like what were you trying to cover when you did that? Like, what were you expecting him to do?
It's kind of, yeah, it's just kind of a shitty panic. Like, I just want to get away from all of his hitboxes and hope he chases me.
Yeah. Hope he chases you, right? So that, I mean, that to me sounds like you were thinking he would do this and go forward and try and hit you, right?
Yeah, I mean, just this whole range in front of him, I was like, I just want to get away from this.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm in the air, I need to come down. Let me just, like, put a dare out.
Yeah, but it's like a lot of the time people aren't actually going to, like, literally run up all this way and hit you.
Yeah.
You know, they're taking incredible risk, and even if they do, they can still lose the situation. So a lot of people just sit here and sort of wait for you to do something like this, right? And now they've gone from this situation, which is, like, okay for them, it's pretty good, but nothing guaranteed, to, like, this, which is, like, amazing for Moth, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what they want.
Yeah. So that's why you need to also wait in this spot, you know, make them show you that they're willing to take this risk and just sort of, like, run in and hit you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you know, they just throw out this aerial and then you get a laser out and now, you know, you're back in a good spot. Or at least a lot better one, right?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And, like, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'm just, like, cognizant of these things, and sometimes I'm not. It really just depends on, like, the person. But I have had moments, like, in games against good players where it's like, oh, like, if I just, like, stay still or, like wait a beat or just, like, do something a little different than, like, a panic option.
Yeah.
It's like, you realize the game is still going on. Like, you're not just, like, getting stomped. It's
yeah.
Like, you have opportunities to get out.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, so I think this was maybe another one of not knowing how much time you had as well. Because this nair looked like you thought, oh, I get to punish the forward smash. But you don't, right? Because Moth gets to dash back.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was really nice. So this was one where maybe... let me watch it again. So I think here the big thing was that you did a high aerial instead of a late aerial, right? So you had this laser, which is great. It's on his landing. And then you go for a high aerial instead of a late one here. So again, this depends on what you thought he would do. Because this is another mix-up here, right? Because again, you don't have a guaranteed hit here. Because he can shield, he can dash, you know, he can up tilt, he can jab, you know, all those things. But it seemed like you played this as if, oh, I lasered him, I get to down at him now, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's like, I'm, like, the reason for doing, like, the early dare, or, like, the high dare, is because, like, I know that they can shield, but I guess in my head, it's like, if I get the hitbox out early enough, if they don't shield frame 1, or they try and, like, press a button, then I'll beat them. But if I try and do, like, a delayed aerial because I think they're gonna shield, then I could get beat by, like, a wake up option, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
like,
I think...
Is it, like, a mix up, or am I, like, just kind of not playing it the right way? Like is a high aerial ever good here?
Yeah, so I think this one specifically, I'd say it was pretty tricky for him to get anything out. He could have maybe, like... I'm not sure if he could have, like, take laser up tilted you. I think he could have dashed either through you or behind you, potentially. But I just feel like also it's like, yeah, this hits the shield, but again, because you're hitting the shield with a high aerial, like, he can move out before you can even do anything. So it's not even like... I think how you're thinking about the situation at the moment is sort of like, well, I get to cover one thing pretty well, and then the other things I can also, you know, sort of keep going a little bit with them, right? Like, I still get a little bit of value. But with this one, like, you know, you hit the shield so high up, like, it's still safe for scrap, probably. Or maybe not, but it's to the point where, like, you know, you're not going to be able to get anything off this anyway. Like, I'd say this is essentially like an even situation, just because Moth gets to move so far and so quickly.
Yeah, okay.
So I think how I would prefer to think about this is sort of like, again, like, feel as if you're willing to get hit by one thing here. So, like, you know, I'm willing to get, to let Moth, like, dash through me, for example. Right? So then you do like a, I don't know, like a running shine or something like that. Something that covers, like, pretty much everything else he could do. The situation isn't as clear cut as that. But sort of like picking something more high reward, right?
Instead of that there. I mean, I could like even just shoot another laser, because if he shields, like, he's just kind of in a bad spot.
Yeah, you can shoot another one if you want. But yeah, you know, if you thought he would shield, then, you know, go for the late aerial. If you thought he would dash back, you know, go for the approaching laser light. Something that's going to get you a lot more reward than this down air that sort of like doesn't. It maybe covers if he tries to like take laser up tilt, right? I'd say that's the only thing.
Okay.
But
yeah, so I guess I gotta recognize when like I have true advantage situation, or when it's like basically neutral, but I have maybe a little bit of control.
Yeah, I think the key thing is, like, I think you're mixing up landing with a laser here with landing with a laser like back here, or even here, right? They're all different situations. Because the blue one, you know, you get a true, like, laser grab, shine, whatever. This one, you know, you can still pressure a lot of his options, but it's not, like, an immediate hit. And then this one's a bit even more, like, you know, you don't have an immediate hit, right? Yeah. Like, they're all varying degrees of, like, advantage. And you need to treat them sort of, like... You can't all treat them the same, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But just to finish my point about the downer, so if we think that the only thing the high downer covers is like him like throwing out an up tilt, right, immediately, well then why don't we go for something that's a bit safer to punish that? So for example, dash back and then like dash in and jump, right? And then if we see the up tilt, we can still like down air it or something. But if he did other things, so like dashing forward, dashing backwards, shielding, we can still like change our decision, right? Because we can use that time to react. So again, you're sort of like covering the same things, but with a lower risk option, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense.
Cool. But yeah, for what it's worth, I actually think like the high aerials in this spot is like it's something that feels like it should be really good, but when you think about how like the opponent's options actually play out, like it doesn't actually get you that much reward versus like other options you could do. Just because, you know, if he dashes back there, then you don't hit him. If he shields, then you don't really get much. If he dashes forward, he probably goes under you.
Yeah. Realistically, I probably just thought I had to confirm off of that.
Yeah. So then that falls back to, you know, thinking about the spacing that you're landing at, both, you know, in the air and on the ground, right? Like, I'd say this one wasn't close enough to laser an air off of. And again, I think this is one of the ones that Mango's pretty good at, is that he would be really good at knowing here that, like, this is my time to set up a late aerial on the shield and get some really good pressure going, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's all fine. I think, again, put yourself in a bit of a precarious spot here by the ledge, right? So I thought this was all fine, like up till back air's fine. And then here I would probably not try and jump off to there. I'd probably just like drop through the platform.
Oh, okay.
For a couple reasons. So first of all, like when you back at him, I think he actually DI'd away. And so the DI away is going to send him more downwards, right? So he's actually going to reach the ledge before you. Whereas when they DI it, like people usually DI this back air in, so they go like this. And then you have time to get down to the ground before them, right?
Yeah, I think I was hoping I could like land with a laser into like a laser F tilt or laser down smash.
Yeah, and I think if they did this high DI, then I think you might be able to set that up. But you always want to check that DI to check how you want to play the advantage, right? Because here he goes too low, and now look what happens, right? Like, look at the situation you end up in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not even thinking about that type of shit at all.
Yeah, it's hard. Because, you know, it's very easy to assume, you know, like, oh, why would this guy ever DI this back air away here, right? But, you know, shit happens in game. And you need to, you know, be ready to respond to it, right?
I mean, to me, it's just like hitting him with that bear. That's like a binary thing. It's like, okay, he's
now I laser. Yeah, but you got to look for those like specifics. You know, how did they drift? You know, how did they DI? Did they use their double jump? You know, all those things sort of change what happens.
Yeah, and like the obvious ones like double jump, I like keep those in mind.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, how they DI that is like really important. Yes, this was another one I think you could have laser nared off of. I'd say the easiest ones to recognize the laser nair are these ones where you do a DB6 laser. So like here, and they jump forward. So like this. This is like, I wish I could frame by frame, but like, you're like, you can easily nair this one essentially. But because you back air, it's like, it makes it harder, and he gets to trade with you, right?
Okay.
And so you go from getting a laser nair at 30, you know, 2 clean, which is like a pretty insane opening, to getting this trade, and now you have nothing, right?
Yeah.
So that's,
yeah, sometimes they go for the bears. I don't know if they're good, because like I try and just do like cross-up bears, just like, I don't know. They're not really covering anything specifically.
Yeah, so I think that's a bit of like the running theme here, right? Is that I feel like you have a lot of like general like ideas that are pretty good, right? But then it's in the specifics that you get a lot more of the value, right?
Yeah. No, I'm definitely seeing that. Yeah, I did it again.
Yeah. So this is another one where you land at that like close spacing, but it isn't right on top, right? So again, like J6 aerial might be nice, you know, walk forward, grab.
So can you go back to that one?
Yeah.
So that one's not like close enough to get a hit, because I feel like
I think you could have walked if you do the walk, or like you delay your reaction a bit so you can see better where they ended up.
Okay. Yeah, I should try that. Because like, yeah, if I do like walk forward shine, or just turn around up tilt, or anything, depending on what they end up doing.
Yeah, and it's also like, it can be a bit weird because like if you look at this one for example, like just before the laser hits him, he's so far away, right? But then because he dashes in, he suddenly teleports next to you. So it's sort of like hard to tell exactly where they're gonna end up, especially off of like a laser from this sort of far away. So that's why doing stuff with like bigger range, or like more time to like see what's happening, can help a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely don't do that at all. It's like when I hit like a laser close to Marth, I'm like, okay, fuck yeah, this is my chance.
Yeah, but again, it's like you got that one extra step that you need to say, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'd say like your corner pressure at the moment I think boils down to like, can I read the timing of which moth is going to jump out of shield with a nair?
Which does explain the inconsistency.
yeah, because like I could see, you know, this guy's working amazing, but then you'll play a moth, even if it's something stupid like they always roll in or something, or like, you know, they always wave dash out shield. Like I could see you like really struggling to get any value once you get them in the corner.
Yeah.
And then that's where like if you're not good at that one spot, like your whole game can break down, right? Because getting them in the corner is like, you know, what your neutral's all about. And then, you know, when you get that nair in the corner, that's when you get the edge guard. And then when you're edge guarding them well, you know, that's when you get the kill, right? But if you've got that sort of like missing link, and then they're hitting you off of it, you know, that's such a huge like swing, right?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Like,
yeah, it just sort of spirals, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's how pretty much every interaction is, honestly.
Yeah, that's the hard part. It's like, someone is way better than you wants to have that in every single little interaction. But I guess like
But you have that on
Going back
other
to what you
people as
said
well,
about,
right?
like- yeah, yeah. But going back to what you said about like having like a breadth of experience and like mix-ups and stuff,
Yeah.
but versus like let's say I was like really good at like the more pressure, like where should I invest my time? Really, like.
I mean, like I say, I think oh, actually, I think yeah, like diversifying as much as you can, is good, and I think any of the spots where there's some sort of big swing, usually, so either like you know, like those approaching lasers you're getting on the Moth, right? So like all of those could have been like huge openings for you, right?
Yeah.
And similarly, something like that one where you're in the corner, like that was a spot where like if you play that wrong, you're giving them like huge reward, right? But then if you play it right, you're turning it from you dying because you're in the corner to, you know, you potentially opening them up, right? So anything that's like high impact, and I sort of class high impact as like either, you know, there's big like stock swings, percent swings, you know, whatever from it, or if it's something that comes up a lot, right? You know, if it's something little and it doesn't add up too much, but then, you know, it happens like every single game you play,
Yeah.
then that's quite big, right?
Okay. So like, I should have like wide variety, but maybe just start with those high impact ones and the ones that come up often.
Yeah, so I'd say a big one, and probably the first one to really delve into a lot, is what do I want to do off of each of these laser spacings that I land at, right? Because that's going to determine, you know, the reward you're getting from all of these spots and like what risks you're taking, and it's also going to help your neutral because now you know like which spots you want to get to, right?
Yeah. Because I feel like I'm doing like a decent job at getting to those spots.
Yeah, you are, definitely.
It's just from there, yeah, I clearly don't have a game plan.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because I never really thought too much about that secondary game plan. I've just thought about like the first level of like neutral in these matchups.
Yeah, and it's sort of like it's tricky because there's so much like, oh, you know, I'm next to Martha with laser out. This is great, you know, I'm winning now, but you still need to do that like final step of like, you know, the reason why it's a good situation for you, you know.
Yeah. I can't just throw a hitbox.
Yeah. Especially that. I mean, that downer example is literally, it feels so counterintuitive because it's like I'm right next to them. Why don't I just throw out an aerial? But it's again like you need to be quite specific about it, right? Yeah, even straight away. Let me know when you can watch again. I'll just show you a little bit of this and then we can wrap up.
Okay.
Are you good to watch now?
Yeah.
You're still time.
No, I'm good.
Are you good? Okay, yeah, so like Mango lands like kinda close to them with this laser, but he's not exactly on top, right? So we wave dash forward jabs. And that was a bit of a weird option, but you can see how like he's accounted for Moth not being right next to him, right?
Yeah.
Like he's accounted for the fact that Moth could like end up somewhere else. Whatever.
Mango doesn't have to laser this guy.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about the advantage state, right? Like, this wasn't even like, you know, Mango doing some crazy combo either. This was literally like, realizes he takes his jump, wins a mix-up here because he reads the edge guard timing, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, if you weren't super confident in your edge guards and knowing how that can play out here, then you might not get the same value from this, right?
Yeah, I'll probably just be in center stage.
Yeah. Yep, so this one, you can see how he's playing around that take laser fair, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, this one I think he could have actually laser nerd off of, but you can see he's like trying to bait it out with like the dash dance jump. But then he sees the waveland and then doesn't go for it, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's sort of that like, you know, he's playing around the same thing, but in a less risky way.
So, so could you go back to before he did that laser? He did like
Yeah.
he kind of like dashes in and then, oh no, he just dashes back.
Yeah, he lands with a full hop, so he full hops towards them. But then doesn't throwing anything out, and then moves back with the laser.
Because it's even like setting up that laser, it's like doing the full hop empty land is like...
Yeah, he set it up in a weird way. But yeah, it is, like, that's what made it work, right? Because if he'd have thrown out the aerial there or done something else, like, it wouldn't have made Crike want to...
Yeah.
Like, nah, yeah. Yeah, and then this one was a bit different to how you approach the corner, right? Because he dash dances a bit longer, waits to see the jump, and then plays a mix-up on what he does after.
Okay, so
and you know...
I think he wouldn't shield there.
Yeah, and I mean, this, you know, it was funny you were thinking about the shield grab thing, because, like, I think the shield grab would have been amazing versus this, right?
Yeah.
But I think Manga's thinking, like, you know, I'm willing to get grabbed here.
Yeah. Because, like, that could have been a double dare.
Yeah, right? And it covers a lot of stuff Moth wants to do after that aerial. Yeah, so laser jab again. So again, it's putting out a bigger hitbox than Shine, which makes it a bit less, you know, ambiguous. Go forward again. Same here. So he gets laser here. And then again, I think this is one where you might have tried to, like, just high aerial in, right?
Yeah.
But he does, like, a dash dance aerial. You know, it doesn't get him, you know, he ends up losing this mix-up, but you can see how, like, you know, if he'd have guessed right, he would have got a lot of value here, right?
Yeah. But that's kind of like the same situation that I was in with the other Mirth, where I hit, like, a high aerial, and then they wave dashed it out, right?
Yeah. Yep, reads the roll this time. But yeah, even Mango, you know, the super aggressive player, is doing a lot of dash dancing in the center when his opponent's in the corner, right? It's pretty funny.
And I think for me, a lot of it's like if there's like a shield heavy Marth, I'm not really making them pay for that.
Yeah.
As much as I should. And I feel like Mirth might disproportionately shield against me.
Yeah.
Because it's like safer for them.
Yeah, because, you know, you're not hitting them with those, like, you know, those late aerials, those grabs, those approaching lasers, you know, like, all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So do you feel like you have some stuff to take away from that then?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of shit. I guess if I had just had like one more question before you.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So it's like getting to like the next level, and for context, like I'm like plat 1 on Slippy, like I'm like pretty much right in the middle, I think. To get to like Diamond and Master and beyond, it's like how much of it is really ironing out these situations versus how much of it is when I do actually get to hit, like punishing like super hard. Like I'm sure the answer is a little bit of both, but like where should I be investing most of my time?
Yeah. So I think the problem with it is that I think the punish game stuff, it first of all, like we said, it sort of leaks into like the neutral and like the advantage state of it, right? So it's not just, you know, being able to like zero death combo everyone. And I mean, it sort of is with like Spaceys sometimes and Falcon. But you know, if you're playing versus like Marth or Sheik or those characters, you need to have a bit more of this like playing well in these advantage states, right? But I do also feel like, you know, as long as you're getting enough openings per game, if you just have a really cracked punish game and you don't mess up much, then that's also enough to carry you very, very far.
Yeah. And that's the thing I go back and forth with, because I'm like, I don't know where to spend my time. Because I get more enjoyment out of like thinking about the game and like these interactions and like and getting better at that. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, I should just fucking grind punish for 8 hours a day for half a year, and I'll be better than I would have doing the other shit.
Yeah. I mean, there is that to some extent, but then I think you could also end up with some roadblocks with like floaties, for example, will be a lot harder, and I think this stuff will be more valuable. And also, it's like, you know, maybe if you practice the punish for like 8 hours a day, you know, you up your punish game by like, I don't know, 30%, say, just using abstract. But if you know, think about the neutral and like some of these mix-ups more, and you're getting 50% more openings, you know? Yeah. It's about how those, you know, and it's impossible to sort of like quantify any of that stuff, I feel like.
Yeah. I've been trying.
Yeah, but I mean, just do a bit of both, I think, honestly. Like, I wouldn't stress too much about it. I think as long as you're improving something, that's always going to be better than, you know, nothing, right?
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's basically what I've been doing. I just feel like I don't see the link between where I'm at now and like being actually good. I just feel like there's like some fundamental piece missing.
Yeah.
Really, that it's like all these little things add up.
Yeah, it's funny because it does feel like, oh, they've just got some like, you know, that thing, like there's just some nebulous thing that you're missing, but it really just is. It's more like it's the accumulation of a load of little things that make it seem like one big thing. Yeah.
I can easily see how like just like not capitalizing on these situations. It's like against this guy who I was playing in that set, you know, it's kind of I still was able to win.
Yeah.
But if Marth, who's punishing really hard and kind of flipping the situations on me, it's like it's impossible to win. Like there's no way.
Yeah.
I have to hit those things.
It's sort of like, if I can try and put it into numbers, so it's sort of like you each have 100 situations. Your opponent you played is good at 10 of them. You're probably good at like 20 of them, and Mango's good at 99 of them, right? Yeah. So he has like 89 situations that the opponent doesn't know how to beat him in, right? Whereas you only have 10. And so there's a lot more overlap in the situations that like both of you know and you're like actually playing the game in, compared to like Mango versus the guy you played, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, some of those situations might be more rewarding, some of them might be less, you know, all of that stuff. But that's the sort of like impact it can have, you know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, cool. I think
no problem.
Super helpful just to like narrow my focus a little bit.
Yeah, sure. You know, feel free to message, you know, DM me or post in the Discord or, you know, whatever. More than happy to, you know, help again. And you said you're interested in doing the ranking up
like,
thing, right?
3-piece.
Right?
Yeah.
It'll
probably just be like a continuation of this.
Yeah, sounds good.
The game. At the end of the day, I'm the one who has to go put the work in if I want to get better.
Yeah, for sure. Did you use the Falco Discord like code, by the way? When you
no, I didn't.
Okay, yeah. Just make sure you do it for the next one, because
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I will see you next time then.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. See ya.